Mordecai Richler est un grand écrivain canadien et le New Yorker est une prestigieuse et influente revue américaine. On pourrait attendre beaucoup d'une collaboration entre les deux pour traiter de la question du Canada et du Québec. Mais ceux qui connaissent bien la réputation de Mordecai Richler ne s'étonnent pas que la publication de son article fasse plus de bruit que de lumière sur la scène nationale. Dans la presse francophone, l'article a été qualifié de délire touffu et de caricature du Québec actuel. La presse anglophone, elle, l'a perçu comme le produit ennuyeux d'un dossier de presse mal assimilé par l'auteur. Mordecai Richler n'en est pas à son premier scandale au Canada. Il a déjà été accusé d'antisémitisme par la communauté juive à laquelle il appartient. Et des nationalistes canadiens-anglais ont dit de lui qu'il gagnait sa vie en caricaturant le Canada à l'étranger. Peu de choses trouvent grâce aux yeux de Mordecai Richler. Il le reconnaît d'ailleurs dans l'entrevue qu'il nous a accordée hier et dans laquelle on sent qu'il a cherché moins à comprendre le Québec actuel qu'à fouiller le passé du nationalisme québécois. Mordecai Richler, is it your style or is it a way of getting attention? Or do you really despise everything you set your eyes upon in Canada, including now French Quebec?
Well, you're making a lot of assumptions to begin with.
One assumption.
Well, that I despise everything, that's not true. First of all, I live here out of choice, not out of necessity. I came back here in 1972 with my wife and 5 children. I put them into French schools, into Stanislas and the Villa Marceline. This is my home, and I enjoy it here. I write about things as I see them, and so far no one has been able to find me factually in error in this chronicle of recent events in Quebec.
No, there's no problem of facts. We're not
Right.
going to talk about that.
Right.
But to quote only one source, your Woody's pub friend, Richard Holden, said you'd put the hatchet to everything that any Quebecer holds dear, a loyal Quebecer, including English Quebecers. And he says that you have gone off the deep end this time. What we wonder is why. What's the point?
Well, Richard Holden is a dear friend, but anybody who knows him well would not ask him a serious question after 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So
he was drunk when he said that. Is that what you're telling me?
That's what I'm telling you, yes.
So you didn't, there's nothing in what he said about you.
I did not.
What about in vino veritas?
Oh, well, that's a suspect. Richard Holden likes to appeal to reporters and to please them. Look, I'm not here to discuss Richard Holden's opinions of my piece.
But that's just one source, one reaction. You know all the other reactions. So what made you do this?
What's did it point? Because I thought it was necessary. I didn't do it to please the nationalists. I did it because I think what's happened here is totally absurd and a great embarrassment. And as it seems to anyone who lives here, it's childish, it's absurd, and it's vengeful, and it's petty-minded. And I'm glad to have written about it. I went to great trouble. I spent 3 or 4 months on this. I'm also deeply resentful of very coarse journalists here who think I did it for the money. I've spent 9 months working on this book on Quebec. Do you think there's a great demand in the United States or England or Germany or Italy or France for a parochial book about Quebec?
Probably not. But
yes.
The important question is, do you feel that you understand French Quebec well enough to explain it to readers of The New Yorker?
Yes, I do.
Well,
now, if you can fault anything in the piece, please come forward and tell me about it.
Well, I wonder about your understanding, because you did meet with Morton Ritz in December, and you were working on this piece already. You said it was very difficult because you couldn't understand what was going on. Did you think about giving it up then?
No, I couldn't understand what was going on because it doesn't render itself to any logic. And if you tell people in London or New York at a dinner party what is going on here, they fall about laughing and they think you come from cloud cuckoo land. They don't believe it.
It was a difficult piece to write then.
I find all pieces difficult, yes.
Did you think about giving up because you couldn't understand?
No, I don't give things up because they're difficult.
So you went on with it.
That's right, because I care deeply about it.
Well, there's another thing. It's the interest in French Quebec. Well, you will not speak French. You will not express yourself in French, which might surprise your sophisticated readers from The New Yorker, who probably think you speak
No,
French
I can read French, but
yes.
I will not speak it in public.
That's a lack of interest in a sense. And also in your novels.
Well, let's say it's better than your Hebrew.
Yes, but we live in French Canada, you know.
Yes.
We don't live in Israel.
Yes, okay, go ahead.
Now, also, there's no French-Canadian character in your novels worth speaking of. It's as if French Canada did not exist.
Have you read The Apprenticeship of Duddy Chronicle?
Yes, Yvette is a little girl, the mistress of Duddy, and she's exploited by him, and that's it. And it's a very, everybody, critics have said that they're very sort of low-profile, almost inexistent characters.
Right.
Is that right?
Well, what's the problem?
Well, how interested are you in this community?
Well, I live here. I'm very interested in it.
Now, it seems to me that your article shows that you resent the changes that have been happening. Is it that you feel a sort of nostalgia for the good old days when,
yes,
when French Canadians didn't matter in Montreal?
What good old days?
When you were, just 50 years ago, when you were growing up on
When I was
St.
growing
Urban
up on St. Urban Street, my father was earning $40 a week, and we lived in a cold water flat. If that seems like the good old days to you, you don't know what you're talking about. You tend to confuse every non-francophone with Westmount. Some of us were brought up in NDG and Point St. Charles and said, these were not the good old days, not for me. So this is nonsense. I had nothing to do with the levers of economic power here.
But at that time, it was between...
and furthermore, I didn't put the Plessy in power again and again. Sorry.
Right. But there is a resistance to, I mean, in your article.
There's no resistance
to the changes.
What changes?
Well, the changes in the laws.
To the language laws? Of course there's resistance.
The way that French Quebecers now want to matter in this province.
My dear, I have no problem with French Canadians wanting to matter in this province. And in fact, I would say that the Quiet Revolution never could have happened had not Anglophones voted in that election in 1960 for the Liberal Party, because the majority of Francophones voted Union Nationale. So this was made possible with the help of Anglophones in this province. I'm very pleased to see French Canadians take the levers of power. I am not pleased to see restrictive laws, language laws, which are totalitarian and which have no place in a democratic country.
A Jewish poet, A.M. Klein, said that the Jewish community and the French-Canadian community have something in common,
yes, I think
which is a desire for group survival.
That's true, yes. I think they had much more in common. I mean, they had a lust for life, an appetite for living, lots of things in common. Yes, I agree.
Don't you think they also have susceptibilities, group susceptibilities in common? And how do you think that we feel when we read that you say that our level of reproduction seems to you based on the assumption among French Canadians that women were sows?
No, you're not quoting it correctly.
Yes, I'm quoting.
I was talking about the l'Abbé Groulx being a bystander and encouraging revenge of the cradle with no regard for women and what it was for a woman to have 12 or 14 children, because it in no way affected him. And I thought this was very cruel to women, and he was treating them like sows.
Suppose you compare yourself, the level of reproduction, to that of Hasidic women in Outremont. Does that fact inspire the same comment from you?
Yes, it would, yeah. I think it's dreadful, yes, to impose that on women.
Would you use the same words?
Sure, I would, yes. Look, I have been...
That there is an assumption that those women are sows.
Yeah, now, wait, just one moment. I don't know how familiar you are with my writing. I have been as critical of the Jewish community.
I know.
I've been as critical of English Canadian nationalists as I have been. So I haven't singled out French Canadian nationalism beyond other absurdities. You know, I've also dealt severely with other matters.
Would you use that word sow to describe Hasidic women having a large families?
Yes, I would, yeah. I would say the rabbis are treating them like sows, yes.
You're concerned throughout this article about whether French Quebecers like the Jews or not. But I wonder if you like the French Canadians, Mordecai Richler.
Look, I don't have to be here. I'm here out of choice. I keep repeating this. I would not live anywhere else in Canada. There is a long and disgraceful history of anti-Semitism in this country, in this province. And I think people should be aware of it.
And you think French Quebecers are anti-Semitic?
I don't think I don't only think it. That there are surveys that were done by the University of Toronto, by York University, to show that their anti-Semitic attitudes are more prevalent in this province than they are in the rest of Canada. So that's something that should be dealt with. Now, I did point out in this piece, I do not think for a moment that Jacques Parizeau is an anti-Semite or that René Lévesque was an anti-Semite. But there is a history of it here.
Is it still true?
Yes, I think so, yes.
In this article, you do fall back on what we have to describe as old stereotypes about French Quebec.
Well, tell me about it, sure.
Well, you know, you go back to the large families, the fascism of the 30s, the anti-Semitism.
Well, stereotypes, that's the truth.
All the stereotypes. You fall back on those, you know, and you reinforce them.
Look,
Do you find that is up to your standards of writing?
here is a statement by the founder of Le Devoir, Henri Bourassa. He said pogroms were necessary because Russian peasants had been sucked for centuries by Jewish usurers. He also said no civilized country, because they're the most undesirable class of people in the world, why should they be in a civilized country?
What year did he write that in?
Does it matter?
Well, there was
do you want me to read you?
There's a mausoley in Great Britain. There's a mausoley
Yes, but he's not central to the intellectual tradition, is he? Do you want me to read what André Laurendeau said in the 40s about how the Jews want to run the world, and that everybody knows this? The Israelites aspire, and everyone in the world knows this, to dominate, to be a race that dominates the world. I mean...
Well, yes, but people have to observe, reading your article, that you bring up these old ideas, these old notions. What's the purpose of this? I mean, what do you think you can achieve, and is that up to standards, to your standards of
Yes,
writing?
it is up to my standards. It's part of
repeating these things.
It's part of the national. Look, you know about the Abbé Groulx and his adoration.
I never knew about him very much until I read you.
Well, I'm glad
Honestly?
It was, well, he was a pseudo-fascist and admirer, and he is central.
Is he?
Well, after, on his death, Claude Ryan said everything original, and I'm not quoting it exactly, and wonderful in this promise comes from the L'Abbé Groulx. I mean, that's very offensive.
Are you pleased with this piece of writing?
Yes, I am.
You think it's up to your standards?
Yes, I do.
Up to your best?
Yes, I do.
Do you think it's up to the New Yorker standards?
Well, they seem to think so. Why don't you get in touch with them?
Do you think that it's useful to repeat these things now in a piece about French Canada as it is now and about French Quebec?
Yes, I do, because I think we're
What is the point?
The point is we're riding very dark tribal horses here, and things could become very unpleasant, and I would deeply regret it, and I think it's necessary to understand the root of some of this nationalist feeling.
So tribal is your
Yes, I think
description
that
of this.
we're undergoing a kind of tribal quarrel here. So far, it's been informed, for the most part, by a certain civility. But we're playing dangerous games, I think.
What are you afraid of, Mr. Richler?
I'm not afraid of anything. What do you mean, what am I afraid of?
You bring up old ghosts to make
Well, you're
people
bringing
afraid
up
of something.
listen, the nationalists are bringing up much older ghosts than I am. Come on. They're fighting yesterday's battles, not me. I mean, the prime minister of this country for 27 of the last 33 years has come from Quebec.
What do you think the consequences of this article will be, or what do you hope they will be?
Oh, I don't think it will have any consequences.
None at all?
No, I don't think so.
Neither will your book?
No, it's just, I would like to say it for the record because it means something to me, but I don't expect it to have any consequences.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank you.
Richler.